You think evil is the enemy, that if you can spot the tyrants, the monsters, the liars, you'll be safe. But Dietrich Bonhoeffer saw something darker. He watched a country collapse, not because of cruelty, but because of compliance, not because of hatred, but because of stupidity. The scariest part? The stupid ones didn't look stupid at all. They smiled, they followed the rules, they believed they were good, and they destroyed everything. Bonhoeffer wasn't writing from theory. He was writing from the depths of Nazi Germany. He saw neighbors betray each other, churches defend mass murder, citizens cheer for cruelty and call it virtue. You'd think the danger came from psychopaths, but it didn't. It came from the friendly people, the obedient ones, the normal citizens. They didn't think, they didn't question, they didn't resist. They just did what everyone else was doing. And that, Bonhoeffer realized, was more dangerous than evil itself, because evil can be confronted, but stupidity is invisible. Let's get one thing straight. Bonhoeffer never said stupidity equals low IQ. It has nothing to do with intelligence. In fact, he believed some of the most stupid people were highly educated. Why? Because stupidity, he said, is not a defect of the mind. It's a surrender of the will. It's not that people can't think. It's that they choose not to. They give up their judgment, their responsibility, their moral spine. They let someone else do the thinking for them and call it peace. But it's not peace. It's paralysis. So why do people choose this? Because it's easy, because it's comfortable, because thinking is dangerous. Bonhoeffer watched how people stopped being individuals and became mouthpieces for the group. They'd say things they didn't believe, do things they didn't understand, support things they didn't question, not because they were evil, but because they were afraid to stand alone. And this is where stupidity becomes fatal, because once you outsource your conscience, you're capable of anything. You can witness injustice and feel nothing. You can repeat lies and feel righteous. You can participate in evil and still believe you're good. The stupid person doesn't think in terms of truth. They think in terms of safety. They ask, what are others saying? What's the right side to be on? What will protect me from being judged? So they follow, even if it leads to madness, even if it leads to horror. They don't want to be excluded. They want to be approved. So they trade clarity for comfort and truth for applause. Bonhoeffer warned that this is where evil gains power, not from hatred but from human weakness. And no amount of education or intelligence can protect you if you haven't made the choice to think for yourself. This is where it gets worse. You can't save the stupid person by debating them, because they're not responding with their own thoughts. They're just repeating. They're like a speaker playing someone else's song. No matter what facts you give them, no matter how gently you speak, they will reject anything that threatens the comfort of their group. Bonhoeffer wrote, "Facts that contradict a person's prejudgment simply need not be believed. Indeed, the fool can count on the listener to turn away. He is blinded by his own will. This isn't ignorance, it's willed blindness. And you can't reason someone out of a position they didn't reason themselves into." Stupidity doesn't grow in isolation, it needs a crowd. Bonhoeffer noticed, the more people merged into groups, the more they lost themselves, in rallies, in churches, in political parties. They stopped being people, they became echoes. He wrote, "Every strong upsurge of power in public life infects a large part of humankind with stupidity. Power doesn't just corrupt the leaders, it blinds the followers. And the bigger the crowd, the smaller the conscience. Because when you're part of something bigger, you don't feel responsible. You just follow orders, repeat the slogans, and call it loyalty." But Bonhoeffer didn't just describe the stupid crowd. He saw how you, smart, thoughtful, conscious you, can become one of them without even realizing it. In the next part, we expose how even the most independent minds get infected by mass stupidity. and the signs that it's already happening to you. Stupidity isn't a lightning strike. It creeps in slowly. You stop asking questions. You stop trusting your instincts. You start nodding along, even when something feels off. Because deep down, you want peace. You want to be left alone. You want to belong. You want life to make sense. And if that means believing a lie or staying quiet when something inside you screams, then maybe you think it's worth it. That's how it starts. Not with a betrayal of others, but a betrayal of yourself. The worst part, it doesn't feel evil, it feels safe. You surround yourself with people who think like you. You scroll through content that agrees with you. You say the right things, and it feels good. Bonhoeffer warned us, this is how the stupid person protects themselves. They stay where their beliefs are never challenged. They trade depth for validation. And soon, they forget what thinking even feels like. It becomes easier to live in slogans, to parrot ideas, to smile and nod, because to think again would mean facing the truth of what you've become. Here's the most terrifying twist. Stupid people often believe they're the most moral. They don't doubt, they don't reflect, they don't wrestle with nuance. They just declare, this is good, that is bad, end of story. Bonhoeffer saw this in religious fanatics, in political mobs, in patriotic citizens cheering for war. It wasn't hate that drove them, it was certainty, and in that certainty, they did unspeakable things. To question them was dangerous, to disagree was heresy. There's a reason it spreads so easily. It feels good, it gives you instant belonging, clear answers, a simple identity, no more complexity, no more anxiety, no more standing alone. Just pick a side, parrot the script, feel righteous. That's the drug. And like any addiction, it takes over without warning. You begin needing other people's approval. You filter your thoughts through the fear of disapproval. You say what's acceptable, not what's real. And worst of all, you start believing it. In 1943, Bonhoeffer was arrested by the Gestapo, not for fighting, not for violence, but for refusing to lie. He refused to preach obedience to Hitler. He refused to let his church become a propaganda machine. He refused to surrender his mind. And so, they locked him up. He didn't beg. He didn't break. He didn't try to go along to get along, because he understood something most people never do. There are worse things than pain, and one of them is becoming stupid in the face of evil. Bonhoeffer believed that resisting stupidity was the highest form of courage, not because it's loud, but because it's lonely. He wrote, "The essence of freedom is to act not out of necessity, but out of moral insight. Moral insight, not fear, not habit, not peer pressure, but clarity. Even if no one agrees with you, even if it costs you everything, this is what most people will never do. And it's why stupidity wins, not because it's stronger, but because it's easier." One of the lies stupidity tells you is that you can stay neutral. Don't get involved. Just focus on yourself. Why cause conflict? Bonhoeffer rejected that lie. He believed silence in the face of evil is not neutrality. It's complicity. You don't have to cheer the mob to help it win. You just have to stay quiet. He wrote, "Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act." This is the cost of clarity, to see what others don't, and to say what others won't, even when your voice shakes, even when it makes you a target, even when it breaks your life. But if stupidity is so contagious, and truth is so costly, how do you protect yourself? In the next part, we reveal Bonhoeffer's secret weapon, the mental armor that keeps you sharp, awake, and uninfected in a world gone blind. Thinking is dangerous, not because it leads you to evil, but because it separates you from the herd. The moment you begin asking, why do I believe this? Is this actually true? What if everyone else is wrong? You become visible, and visibility is risky. Bonhoeffer knew that. He knew that most people stay stupid not because they lack insight, but because they're terrified of standing alone. That's why true thinking is rebellion. It's not just mental, it's moral. It's the willingness to live by what you see, even when it costs you the world. Bonhoeffer didn't believe freedom was external. You could be locked in a cell and still be free, or you could walk the streets with a smile and be a slave to stupid ideas. Real freedom, he said, begins inside. It's the moment you reclaim your mind, the moment you stop outsourcing your voice, the moment you realize no one can tell you what to think. They can pressure, they can bribe, they can threaten, but your conscience, that's yours alone. And it is the only part of you that can remain sovereign in a captured world. Stupid people don't ask why. They ask what's allowed. They don't ask what's true. They ask what's safe. This is how evil thrives. Not through logic, but through comfort. As long as people believe questioning is dangerous, they will stay asleep. That's why Bonhoeffer believed questions are more dangerous than weapons, because a well-aimed question can unravel a lie the size of a nation, but only if someone dares to ask it. And that someone is you. Why do people fall into this trap so easily? Because conformity feels good. It feels like friendship, like community, like approval. You wear the right clothes, say the right things, follow the script, and you're rewarded, not for being honest, but for being obedient. But Bonhoeffer reminds us that approval comes at a cost, and the cost is you. Your depth, your clarity, your self-respect. Bonhoeffer wasn't a bomb thrower. He wasn't a radical preacher. He wasn't a celebrity activist. He was a quiet man who thought deeply, who wrote clearly, who listened to his conscience more than to his peers. That's what real resistance looks like. It's not loud. It's not viral. It's not fashionable. It's saying no when everyone says yes. It's staying awake when everyone else sleeps. And it's not about proving others wrong. It's about refusing to lie to yourself. Most stupidity doesn't start with a big lie. It starts with a small silence, a joke you didn't challenge, a post you didn't question, a belief you inherited but never examined. You let it slide, just this once. But Bonhoeffer knew each silence becomes a thread, and one day you look back and realize you're wrapped in a web you never chose to weave. The antidote? Refuse the first compromise. That's where freedom begins, with the smallest act of integrity. But what if the stupidity is everywhere? What if it's in your workplace, your friends, your family, even your own thoughts? As the next step of our journey, we explore how Bonhoeffer teaches us to stay human in an inhuman world, and how not to lose your mind trying to survive it. When the world goes blind, seeing clearly can feel like a curse. You feel alien, disconnected, like you've stepped outside the matrix, but everyone else still thinks it's real. Bonhoeffer understood that pain. He wrote, spoke, and stood firm in a time where doing so meant exile or death. But he stayed human. He didn't dehumanize the stupid. He pitied them. He tried to reach them. And when he couldn't, he refused to become like them. That's your task too. Not to scream, not to hate, but to remain awake, whole, clear, even if no one else is. Bonhoeffer never turned his clarity into cruelty. He believed you could understand people without surrendering to their delusions. He saw that stupidity was a disease, but one you didn't have to catch. You could love people without lying to yourself. You could be kind without becoming a coward. And you could forgive others without pretending they were right. This is rare power, to stay rooted in truth, while extending grace to those still asleep, not because they deserve it, but because you won't let their ignorance infect your soul. You might think the answer is simple: cut them off, go live alone, stay pure. But Bonhoeffer didn't run from the world, he ran toward it. He knew that withdrawing completely doesn't fix the problem. because even in isolation, stupidity can follow you in your own mind. The real battle isn't just out there, it's inside you. To not become bitter, to not become arrogant, to not become so woke that you become blind to your own blind spots. True wisdom requires engagement with humility, with clarity, with risk. Bonhoeffer lived among the infected and stayed free. So can you. Bonhoeffer treated his mind like sacred ground. He fed it carefully, tested it relentlessly, trained it daily, because he knew the world will not protect your mind. It will assault it, with noise, with trends, with fear. If you don't actively shape your thinking, someone else will. That's why silence matters, why solitude matters, why deep reading, honest journaling, real conversations matter. This isn't self-care, it's self-defense against mass stupidity, against mental corrosion, against the lie that you're powerless. Make no mistake, clarity will cost you. Friends who preferred the old agreeable you, comfort you once mistook for happiness. Belonging in places where truth isn't welcome. You'll question yourself, you'll want to go back. You'll feel the ache of loneliness that only real thinkers feel. But Bonhoeffer believed that loneliness is holy. It's the space where your soul grows teeth, where your integrity gains weight, where you learn to walk alone and become unbreakable. It's not easy, but it's worth it, because clarity may cost you comfort, but it buys you freedom. But Bonhoeffer didn't just give us warnings. He left us a roadmap. In the final part, we unpack the principles of a free mind and how to live with truth, power, and unshakable vision in a world that wants you stupid. Bonhoeffer didn't just criticize stupidity, he modeled the antidote. He believed in 5 essential traits of a truly free person, not someone who escapes pain, but someone who faces truth, no matter what it costs. Here they are. 1. Think slowly. The crowd rushes, the wise pause. They don't react to the latest trend, the loudest voice, the flashiest claim. They ask, is this true? And if it isn't, they let it die. 2. Act consciously. Bonhoeffer didn't just think clearly, he lived accordingly. He didn't play it safe. He aligned his life with his beliefs. Your life should reflect your mind, not your fear. 3. Speak courageously. He spoke even when no one listened, even when it got him arrested. Truth doesn't need applause, it needs a spine. 4. Forgive without foolishness. He showed grace without losing his clarity. He didn't hate the infected, but he didn't let them lead him either. 5. Die standing. Bonhoeffer was executed in 1945, just weeks before the war ended, but he died free, because he never let the world write his script. Let's be honest. You will be surrounded by stupidity in politics, in media, in your friend group, in your own mind. The goal is not to escape it, but to see it, to recognize it when it smiles, when it flatters, when it calls itself common sense, and then refuse it with calm eyes, with grounded words, with the kind of stillness that only comes from someone who's done the inner work. That's what Bonhoeffer left us, not a scream, a stillness. The kind of stillness you can build your life on. If you remember one thing from this entire video, make it this. You are not immune. No one is. Stupidity is a virus that hides behind certainty, comfort, and noise. It takes root when you want to fit in more than you want to understand. It flourishes when you silence your instincts just to be liked. It wins when you choose easy answers over hard questions. Bonhoeffer's life was a reminder. You don't need to be loud. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be popular. You just need to stay awake. That alone is resistance. If this video shook something in you, if you've seen this stupidity around you, or even within you, tell us in the comments. Where have you witnessed it? What woke you up? And if you want more bold, soul-cutting psychology like this, join our community of people walking toward the light. Subscribe and click the notification bell to never miss new insights. Until next time, keep shining, not to be seen, but to see.